Diablo Immortal closed alpha has now been out for just over a week, and in that week, I've done about 60 plus hours in the game, and I wanted to put together a video for you guys of sort of my initial impressions of the closed alpha and kind of give you all the details, let you guys make the decision for yourself if you like it. And of course, at the end of the video, I'll give you my full opinion and review of everything we've seen so far. You know, keeping in mind, this is closed alpha, so a lot of the things, probably not big things will change from here until release, but, you know, minor decisions here and there that could impact the game gratefully could change. So keep that in mind as we go into this. But without further ado, let's get into it. Now, before we get cracking on this video and start digging in, you know, I want to make it completely aware that in no way, shape, or form is this a sponsored video by Blizzard. Obviously, Diablo Immortal is a fairly controversial game, especially in the PC gaming space. And as a lot of you guys know, I have a sort of personal history with Diablo Immortal ever since BlizzCon 2018, when I asked, is there any plans to make this playable on PC, or is this strictly mobile forever? Now, to knock out a couple questions, I know we're going to get it right out of the gate. You know, as I download this game, you'll notice it's about 5 to 6 gigabytes. That is the closed alpha version. Of course, I expect the full version to be larger, but it is definitely a lot smaller than I expected it to be. I also am playing on an iPhone 11 Pro, so, you know, not the latest and greatest tech, but no slouch by any means. I know a lot of you guys were also asking about battery life. Before we get started, I played for about an hour and 45 minutes before getting to that low battery mode of 20% power. So I fully expect, you know, on low FPS mode, you'll be able to play for about 2 hours. Now, there is a setting in the game where you can turn on high FPS mode, which I would highly encourage you guys to do because it looks way, 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 way better. But in my findings, I found it's about 30% less battery life playing in the high FPS setting. So, of course, to play a long session of Diablo Immortal, you're going to have your phone plugged in. I also want to make it abundantly clear that, you know, obviously the way I've been playing the game is not what this closed alpha was intended for. The closed alpha is intended to test the leveling and the feel of the leveling. It wasn't really to test the end game systems and stuff like that. But of course, you know, the face of Diablo is going to play the end game. That's what we do. And I also don't think that this game was intended for the way I've been playing it this past week of, you know, 10 plus hour days on a mobile game. So I want to make that abundantly clear too, is that my playtime is probably, you know, above what 98% of players are going to be playing this game for. But I also wanted to take a deep dive, right, and really experience everything the game has to offer so I can make an informed decision to you guys on whether or not, A, I like this game, and to give you all the facts. So the alpha currently does not have the Necromancer or the Crusader. Imagine my disappointment, right, as a, you know, hard Necromancer player. So, you know, I wanted to spend, personally, you know, the majority of my time on one character, really gearing out, seeing all the items that character has, grinding Paragon, grinding the end game, grinding XP, grinding mats. And so I chose to do that on a Barbarian because Barbarian was my main before the Necromancer. So I don't have a ton of feedback on how the other classes feel. I did make one of each of the character classes just to see the skills that they had access to. But outside of that, I've strictly been playing Barb for, you know, again, 60 plus hours. The leveling process is basically how you would kind of expect it to be. What the game gives you these footprints to sort of follow, and you just kind of go from quest to quest, you know, experiencing the story of Diablo Immortal. You're kind of just going from point to point. Maybe you stop and kill a bunch of stuff on the way. But, you know, basic campaign stuff, right? Go here, do this, kill this guy, do that. Learn about the story, and who knows, right? We don't have the full campaign yet. The alpha goes to level 45, and the full version of the game we know goes to level 60. The only sort of controversial thing that happens while leveling is the fact that at certain points during the, you know, the campaign, you get quests that basically say, okay, get to level 30, get to levels 45, right? That's actually the quest that the main storyline tells you to do. Now, I know a lot of players, you know, for instance, Riker, we were in Riker's stream talking about Diablo Immortal for a couple of hours the other day. And to players like him, you know, someone who's deeply entrenched in the Diablo 3 story, or just the story of Diablo in general, that felt kind of bad to those kind of players to kind of break up the story and you know, pause and, you know, just go level. because, you know, players like that want to kind of experience the game and experience the story, and they don't have to take breaks from the story. They kind of get immersed in it, and it feels bad when they get pulled out of it. But I, as you guys know, I come from the perspective of, the story is cool. I guess if I had to watch any story, I'd want it to be like a Diablo related story. I guess I'm the most entrenched in the story like that. But I don't really play games for story. I play games for, fun gameplay. I play games for, for competition factors. If I want to watch a story, I'll go watch a movie, or I'll listen to an audiobook or something. I don't really play video games for story. So to me, this actually felt pretty good, because what it does for me is it breaks up this monotony of go to the next quest, do the next quest, do the next quest, do the next quest. And instead, it gives you the opportunity to sort of, learn the other things to do, right? You learn about bounties, or you go run other things, or, you figure out how to do events, and it kind of just breaks up the gameplay of how sort of, questing can feel. Like I said, it can feel pretty monotonous, and if you don't care about story, then you're just like clicking through it as fast as you can, like I do. So when you get this quest to say, oh, go get to level 30, it's like, okay, cool. Let's go explore. Let's go kill stuff. Because up until then, to me, you're just kind of like, I'm just going to follow these footprints. I have no reason to veer off and do anything else. And so when you get those quests to level, it's like, well, let's just go explore. Let's go see, what's in this zone. And that, to me, felt pretty good. Throughout the story, you'll, encounter, all the dungeons that the game has to offer. I will say with the dungeons, the first time playing them through, they all get a cutscene at the beginning, which is actually pretty cool. And I'm not a cutscene guy, but they're all done pretty darn well, I gotta say. And most of the dungeons feel pretty good. The boxes have, I would say, more interesting mechanics than, most of the bosses in Diablo 3. Of course, we see things like telegraphed attacks, and that always feels good, because I don't want to be standing in this, or I should avoid this. Whereas in Diablo 3, sometimes you just get hit by stuff or one shot by stuff that you don't know is coming. But I will say is there's some, I don't want to use the word gimmicks, because maybe there's a negative connotation to that word. But over time, it does become sort of a gimmick, right? Because it does become negative. So, in some of the dungeons, you ride a raft, for a while, and you kind of sit there as waves of mobs kind of jump onto the raft and attack you. And while the first time you play through that dungeon, maybe the first dozen times you play through the dungeon, like, oh, this is pretty fun. Like, what a cool and unique experience. But, in a game that you kind of grind, the 100th time you do that dungeon, you're like, F&L, like, can we please get off this raft? I just want to finish this dungeon as fast as I possibly can. So that's, that's one of the problems I had with Lost Ark as well. Lost Ark has some of the coolest dungeon mechanics. Like, there's one where you get inside of a mech, and it's super exciting. The first time you play, you're like pogging out, but then like you do it for 100 times, and you're like, geez, like, please get me out of here. This dungeon takes so much time. So there is that aspect. But eventually you reach the end game and unlock difficulties. And so right now in the alpha, there's normal, which is sort of what you level up on. There's Hell 1, which is sort of, they say more challenging, and they certainly are, right? They hit harder. They have more HP. But I gotta say, there's nothing outside of Challengers, which we'll get to in a minute, that is actually challenging in this game, in my opinion. It is legitimately hard to go die while you're doing anything. Now, if you're a fresh level, 45 character and you jump into Hell 2, you are going to get annihilated. But it's not necessarily because it's hard, because it's just more of a gate, right? It's an item gate. So, for me personally, I found that once you're kind of, I think, +3 on your gear, which we'll talk about in a while, you're ready for Hell 2. And again, it's not that Hell 2 felt any harder. It was just, it's kind of a gate before you can kind of do the next difficulty. And, in Hell 2, I get more XP. In Hell 2, maybe I have a better magic find. Who knows? They don't actually really tell us here. But I think you're just kind of naturally meant to progress through the difficulties as you get better and better gear. It's not that they feel all that different. Obviously, if I go back and do Hell 1 or normal, it's insanely easy. Everything gets one shot. But again, you don't feel that additional challenge as you step up your difficulty. I will say between Hell 1 dungeons and Hell 2 dungeons, when you go into a Hell 2 dungeon, you get a pop-up saying this is meant for 4 players, and you definitely feel that if you're in a dungeon on Hell 2. Everything has a ton of HP, and it's really, really quite slow, and it's not worth to run at all unless you had like just insane gear. But what you'll also notice after you hit max level is you unlock Paragon, right? And I know, your initial guttural reaction, like mine was, is like, ugh, Paragon, I don't know, man. Like, +5 main stat, Diablo 3, please no. But it's actually quite different and slightly more clever in Diablo Immortal. Because for one, we can see here from looking at the tree, is it's definitely capped, right? So like I can only put 100 points in Vanquisher, 100 points in Survivor. You know, eventually I unlock Treasure Hunter and Gladiator, and it looks like here in the top right, there's going to be even more things to unlock later on. And in the AMA, so Blizzard did an AMA, Ask Me Anything, they hinted at how, you know, that Paragon cap would increase as they added more content because they're going to add more trees for you to invest in. And to me, this is, you know, way better than D3 because one, we know there's a cap. And, you know, that's one of the big problems with Diablo 3 is there is no cap to the Paragon. So you just infinitely scale your power strictly based on the amount of time you play. Two is it's more interesting than Diablo 3 in the sense that you're kind of picking from several different routes. Like, you know, if I was jumping the Survivor tree for the first time, it branches off into a few different trees. And so you have some choice about like what you want to invest in early on. Eventually you'll just get everything. But what makes it kind of more interesting is eventually you have to kind of choose what you want to specialize in, right? So these circle nodes will always be unlocked for your character regardless of what tree you want. But you can see this one's highlighted, so it's on Vanquisher right now, which means I get access to these sort of square powers. For example, this one is once learned, activating Vanquisher specialization will apply to skills bonus, and which means I get 5% increased damage to monsters. Now, if I had selected the Survivor tree, for example, I would only get this, you know, square boxes associated with this tree. And so you always get the circles. I don't know if this makes any sense. You always get what's invested in the circles. So there's just flat goodness in getting all the trees unlocked and maxed out. But ultimately, you know, what skill tree you pick will affect, you know, the kind of skills or passes you have access to at any given time, which again is way more interesting than Diablo 3. I definitely foresee, you know, one tree being better than another, and probably everyone's going to play the same tree in the end game. But, you know, maybe you're someone that really likes to focus on PvP or PvE, or you love, you know, magic find and stuff like that. Maybe you're going to pick a tree based on that, but there probably will be, you know, kind of a best tree for really pushing high tier end game. Now, what's also, it's not necessarily unlocked at the end game, but along the way, you get the ability to sort of salvage items just like you would in Diablo 3. And of course, salvaging items gives you mats, just like in Diablo 3. These mats are then used to upgrade your current gear. And just for the sake of showing you guys what that looks like, so, you know, this is a level 1 item. You know, this is kind of the traditional, on all items, you get that traditional Asian style, you know, +1 rank to items that you see in item progression in a lot of, you know, Asian-based games. For example, Lost Ark. This is a pretty common system you see. I do think this plays a lot better than those because, one, there's no time gate on how much mats you can get on your character, right? So I can go grind all day, and that's basically what I've been doing. I can go grind for gear all day, and at the end of the day, I'll be able to upgrade, you know, several pieces of gear based on the amount of dust or reusable parts that I get. So that part feels good. There's no like energy system where I have to, you know, wait until tomorrow before I can upgrade another piece of gear, even though I have the materials to do it. Now, of course, increasing the level of gear increases, basically it adds like a stat layer to it. So if I upgrade this ring, I get 8 strength and 8 vitality from doing it. It consumes the mats and some gold, and then boom, it raises the rank. And now, of course, I could do rank 2, rank 3, rank 4, or whatever, based on the amount of mounts I have. It seems like rare/yellow items have a cap of item level 5. And currently in the alpha, after a heavily farming, and that's one of the most positive things I can say about the Diablo Immortal Alpha is legendaries are rare. They're super duper rare. They're hard to come by. It took hours and hours and hours to get fully legendary. And as you can see from my stash, there is actually a decent amount of legendaries to choose from. I will say I'm probably only missing 2 legendaries on the alpha for my class, the Barbarian. And I'm only getting that from like basically examining other barbarians, seeing what kind of loot they have, anything that I don't have. And I think in the state of the game right now, I have everything besides maybe 2 legendaries, which says a lot too, right? Because again, 60 plus hours, I don't have everything. Obviously, a lot of the stuff I'm currently wearing could actually be way better. You know, for example, my pants, I've got strength and willpower. I'd probably prefer to have something like strength and vite. So a lot of time can be invested into not only getting the legendaries in the slots that you want and getting the power that you want, but obviously getting the stats that you want as well. So stats are completely randomly rolled. As far as, and to kind of examine the screen further, is so on the right here, you've got your kind of main 6 slots. And these slots, from what I've read in some of the menus, these can go up to plus 20. And so again, 60 plus hours in, I have rank 7 across my gear, rank 8 on my weapons. That took a lot of farming to do. And of course, I have all my lesser, what they call lesser armor pieces, sort of max level rank 5, because that's only rare. Also on these left side pieces, these are pretty hard to farm as well. You want things that are sort of insane. I have a couple that are pretty decent. For example, these gloves, strength and fortitude, yay. And I have 3 sockets on it. That took quite a bit of time to farm. There's quite a bit of RNG associated with farming these lesser pieces. So it's not just like, oh, this is the best item for this slot and I'm just going to put it in. So there is that. I will say for the legendaries, Diablo 4 just actually talked about in their quarterly update is how basically legendary powers are going to be kind of randomly assigned as that legendary dropped, which is actually quite interesting. Now, I know Diablo Immortal doesn't want to copy, sort of the systems that Diablo 4 is or Diablo 3 is, but it does feel like a lot of the coolest legendary effects in Diablo Immortal right now share the same slot, which is, that's Diablo, right? You can't buff every skill that you want, but you only have access to, as you can see here, basically 5 skills. And so you can't really fully buff each of those 5 skills up through your legendaries. You'll have probably just a couple skills that you're really focusing on, you're buffing up with legendaries, and then everything else maybe just supports you or whatnot. Now again, the legendaries I just showed you, that's not all the legendaries that are going to be in the game. This is just for alpha. We did see from the AMA that a lot more legendaries would be added to the game upon release, but I have to say I've been somewhat unimpressed. I think that the Diablo or the Barbarian skill set is a bit snooze, if I'm being honest. You got 4 of the 13 skills, and again, we'll have access to 15 skills when this game finally does release, but of the 13 skills, you're gonna get 4 that are movement, and really only 3 that kind of feel like true damage skills, right? You got Cleave, you've got Whirlwind, you've got Hammer of the Ancients, which is kind of like the only true DPS skills that you think of from the Barbarian, and then you have like Chain Spear, Shout, Ground Stomp, Leap. These are kind of skills you might associate with like support from Diablo 3. So for the Barbarian in general, this kind of feels a bit unexciting. And I would almost go as far to say is that, Whirlwind's probably going to be mandatory in most of your builds unless you get just some crazy legendaries later on, because your auto attack only hits 1 target. So anytime that you have downtime between all your cooldowns, you're either just running away from mobs or you're going to just be hitting on 1 target while all the other targets are hitting you. So, the channeling time of Whirlwind kind of gives you that filler while other cooldowns are coming off cooldown. But, maybe that's just a Barbarian thing. It's just something I've noticed that just like not having Whirlwind in the build, you just feel way less powerful, which is, kind of another gripe. I've played Whirlwind to the ends of the earth in Diablo 3. I'm a bit tired in, Diablo Immortal, Diablo 4 of seeing the same skills on my bar that I've been playing for the last decade. I really don't like seeing skills that I've already used. I'd like to explore, what else these classes can do, but, some of you guys might just love the nostalgia of playing the same stuff that you've played in previous Diablo games. To me, I think it's a little snooze. But yeah, so legendaries are hard to find. Getting good gear is quite difficult. Eventually you'll rank all this gear up, and that's how, that's what the grind is. Basically, a lot of people are going to think, oh, a lot of people are asking me, what's the best way to farm XP in this game? It doesn't matter. Ultimately, all you're trying to do is optimize how many drops of items you can get per hour, and the XP just kind of comes along with that. Because your main goal, at least right now in the state of the game, is to just upgrade your gear. Like, that's priority 1. That's going to give you significant increases in power, and the Paragon just kind of comes with that, kind of organically. So it's not about grinding XP more than it is about just like literally grinding items that you can break down to upgrade your gear. Which leads into the second piece of how your character gets more powerful, is that in every piece of legendary, and even sometimes the rares, you have a socket. And in your primary pieces, these items here on the right side of your character, you can slot a legendary gem. And not only are these legendary gems really strong, they come with powerful effects. A lot of the powerful effects that we've seen kind of from Diablo 3. For example, this chest piece, I slotted it with a Fervent Fang, which basically is like a 10 stack Bane of the Stricken from Diablo 3. So, if you're fighting a single target, this is quite good. So, scale your damage quite well. And eventually, when I get this up to rank 6, I'll get a bonus effect. And all the legendaries have this. So this one in particular will say increase all damage you deal to elite monsters by 2%. And now these stats in the green, those stats will go up. Every single time you level the gem, that stat goes up. So you can see here on my main hand weapon, I've got Trick Shot Gem all the way up to level 4. And you can see, the green numbers continue to go up. This one says 45% of the base item. And this one says, a Filthy Casual 25% because it's only level 1. Now, this leads into, the most controversial part of Diablo Immortal for me. So you'll notice when you get max level, or even before max level, you'll have up here what's called challenge rifts, which you are basically like the leaderboard of the game. You can see here, I've been rank 1 basically for the entire alpha, but the last couple days I haven't played at all because we're kind of chilling out on how much we play. Not only because I'm in pain, like from mobile gaming for this many hours, but I also don't want to burn myself on the game. So I've kind of given up. But it's really fun actually maintaining rank 1 for like that first week. Feels pretty good, actually. So the challenge rift is what you'd think of as the leaderboard, which is fantastic. So you can see here, I'm rank 1 bar by a landslide. But if I look at the overall leaderboard, there's 2 DHs in front of me right now. And I will say DH is insanely OP. And you actually get rewards for every tier that you complete in the form of runes or currency or honor. And we'll get to all that in a minute. But the coolest thing here, so again, think of challenge rifts as high GRs in Diablo 3. The cool thing here is at the end of every week, whoever is the highest on these leaderboards, right, all the way up to 10, gets special currency for being on that top spot. So, at the end of the week, I'll get 7 legendary crests, I'll get 1.5k honor and 100,000 gold, just for maintaining the top spot on the board, which I think is really cool and something that Diablo 3 really would have benefited from early on, before, sort of the bots took over the leaderboard. But yeah, so challenge rifts are actually really cool. They're actually really challenging. This is the only form of content in Diablo Immortal right now that actually I find to be challenging and in a really fun sort of way. It is fun to, fight for rank 1. It's fun to basically progress your character so that you can do better. You can go higher on the challenge rift leaderboard. It's a lot like that Diablo 3 gameplay loop, right? You speed farm greater rifts to get more XP, more Paragon, so that you can push the leaderboard further than everyone else. They also have what's called Elder Rifts, right? So Elder Rifts are what you'd think of in Diablo 3 as a speed rift, a speed GR. Now on their own, if you don't modify them at all, they're actually not rewarding very much at all. They will give you XP. This is one of the ways people are getting max level in this game, is by grinding Elder Rifts. In the current state of the game, running dungeons is probably actually better XP and better use of your time because you get a lot more drops. And again, this game currently is all about just the amount of drops you can get per hour. The XP doesn't really matter. So just running base Elder Rifts is actually not really a great use of your time. But this leads into what I talked about just a minute ago. So with Elder Rifts, you can modify them with Crests. Now, Crests will increase the rewards you can get. So now I'm going to get 9 runes if I run a Elder Rift with 3 rare Crests, which is a good idea. Now, each one of these Crests will modify the Rift with additional modifiers, something that's sort of interesting. Like you can get, after 3 hits, you will bleed enemies, or enemies deal more damage to you, and stuff like that. So it's basically like adding modifiers. It's like upgrading a map in Path of Exile to have additional modifiers on it and make it more challenging. I will say, however, you do not feel these at all. In the current state of the alpha, you add, say, 3 rare crests or 3 legendary crests, and it changes the rift, but you don't feel it because it's so easy, right? You finish these rifts in like 2 or 3 minutes because, again, these are like basically speed farming GRs in Diablo 3. It'd be like, modifying a speed farm in Diablo 3 where it's like, oh, monsters have more damage. Well, you wouldn't really feel that because you're still going to clear the whole rift in like a couple minutes, and it's really, really easy for you. So I hope that they change this quite a bit to make these modifiers really interesting and impactful, because right now they don't really do much of anything at all, and Elder Rifts are just not that interesting. But also, there's the rare crest, but you can also modify these with legendary crests. So let me actually go buy one to show you guys what it does. So if you modify an Elder Rift with a legendary crest, you can see here in the bottom right is one of the rewards that I get is a legendary gem. I don't know which one I'm going to get. It's a random legendary gem. So if I can upgrade every Elder Rift with a legendary crest, it means I get legendary gems from every run. And I can get up to 3 if I can socket 3 legendary crests in this bad boy. And the reason that becomes so incredibly powerful is what we're about to show you here. Is the only way you can level up your legendary gems is to basically find duplicates of those gems. So for example, for the sake of this video, you know, I have Pain of Subjugation. I just found another one, so I can go now upgrade my current Pain of Subjugation. So you can see, I'll just click what I want to eat basically, and I sacrifice that duplicate Pain of Subjugation to increase the one that I'm using all the way up from another rank, because it's only rank 1 right now. So now it's rank 2. You can see the base item attributes go up by 5%, and the damage dealt goes up by 1%, which is amazing, right? So you can see where I'm going with this. Being able to get tons and tons of legendary gems in this game is not only good because the item or the legendary gems themselves are quite good, but it's amazing because it increases the socketed items base attribute, right? And so you can see this one's rank 4, it gets up to 45%. This one's only rank 2, and so it gets up to 30%. So if you can just scale these like crazy, you know, I don't know. I think the max legendary gem rank is either 10 or 20. We don't really know. This thing would go through the roof in terms of power. So if I had, you know, an infinite supply of legendary crests, I could run Elder Rifts and get 3 legendary gems per Elder Rift. And that would be insane amounts of legendary gems to sort of eat and absorb into other legendary gems, and therefore give my character tons and tons of power. Now, on top of that, you can craft legendary gems with the currency you get from Elder Rifts. You can buy the runes specifically that you want from a vendor whose currency is basically the currency you get just from running Elder Rifts. And you can buy the runes that you want, and basically those runes are what you need to craft the legendary gems specifically that you want. So you get this Ati rune basically for running any Elder Rift period. And so you can see here, every legendary gem has like that base Ati rune. And then there's a secondary specialized rune associated with that legendary gem. And so you can either buy those runes from the vendor that that sells stuff based on the basically Elder Rift currency that you get. Or of course, these runes can randomly drop while you're inside of Elder Rifts. You do get quite a bit of the base Ati runes from running Rifts. You can see here, there's a special recipe from the jeweler that for 150, I can craft a legendary gem. And that takes what's called platinum, which we'll get into in just a minute, all the in-game currencies. But we'll just go ahead and do that for the sake of this video. And we got, basically the Diablo Immortal equivalent of Bane the Powerful. So again, that would mean I can go into my Bane the Powerful now and absorb that duplicate Bane the Powerful to upgrade my current Bane the Powerful. Now, as we mentioned earlier, is these lesser armors can have sockets. And then the lesser armors, you're not putting in legendary gems. You're just putting in, sort of regular gems. So you can see here, this one has 3 sockets. So I'm putting a bunch of offense rating in it. This one's got 2 sockets, purple sockets, red sockets, and I can put damage gems in that. Currently in the alpha, there's only 2 ways to get 3 ways to get your hands on gems. It's either 1, you go over to this honor vendor, and I can buy up to 3 of each type per day with honor. 2 is you randomly get them from running bounties, which we'll talk about in a minute. Of course, also from this honor merchant, you can buy what's called Reforge stones, which we'll also talk about in a minute. And the rare crests that you can use to modify Elder Rifts, which will make them drop a rune. But again, you can see here, that's capped daily. So I can only buy so many per day. The third way you can get gems is from randomly out in the world, you'll see layers. So these are just like randomly spawning zones. And they are labeled as layers. And so you'll be running around killing things, and you'll see like a zone that's normally not there, and you can go zone in, and it's basically like a little mini dungeon that is either 1 floor or 2 floors. It seems to be kind of RNG, and you get like mini objectives that you're trying to do inside of that layer. It's a lot like a set dungeon from Diablo 3, but actually rewarding. And so that's the other place you can get gems from is basically only doing those layers. So layers, bounties, and that honor vendor is the only way you can get gems to upgrade. And you upgrade those the same person that you upgrade the legendary gems with. And it's that same system that we know from Diablo 3, whereas you combined 3 to craft, one of the next tier. So you just keep doing that with all the gems you have 3 of, and eventually you'll scale those up just like you would in Diablo 3. So you see this one I got to rank 3 because I eventually had crafted enough rank 2s, eventually taking them to rank 4, as I just did here. Eventually I'll be able to upgrade these, past rank 5. However, with rank 5 plus, I need to buy what's called an Echo Crystal, which I can only buy with Platinum. But that's just to upgrade them past level 5, which I don't think anyone in the alpha right now is doing. So we briefly mentioned bounties before as a way, to get not only gems, but also, more importantly, it's the only way currently in the alpha to get yourself a charm, which we'll talk about in a minute. So basically these bounties are just bounties as you would think in Diablo 3, where it gives you an objective, or, go to the zone and collect 15 of these, or go to the zone and kill these mobs to get these, or go to the zone and just kill 60 of any mob, right? So right now on the quest tab here, we can see, okay, go to Ashwood Cemetery and just click it. It'll navigate there for you, which is kind of interesting, right? It'll auto navigate all the way to the quest for me and I could just sit here and AFK if I really wanted to, or AFM. So boom, I get here and I can see I've got some quest mobs to kill. Like these boys are chasing somebody else. Now, the cool thing about these, is actually exploring the world and killing all the things you see is actually one of the best ways to, get XP and to get drops that, you eventually break into the parts that you need. But also, currently, these event farms, right? So every once in a while, you'll be in a zone like this. And this boss just spawned while I was here, right? And I'll get like a custom little quest that says, okay, kill that guy or do this thing. And it only pops up if I'm in that area. And that actually is one of the best ways to get mats for upgrading items. You can see here, this drops 3 enchanted dust, which is super vital in sort of upgrading my legendaries. So actually just exploring the world, doing events is, right now in the alpha, the best way to kind of progress your character, which is sort of interesting. Early on, as you are a fresh character, the best thing to do is probably just to level in dungeons and get tons of experience and activity juice and consistent, reliable drops that way. But after a while, you start kind of getting starved for enchanted dust, which is exactly what you need to kind of take your items to the next tier. And so you kind of start farming these outdoor worlds for events to get that special legendary juice. You can see eventually, kill all the things, gather enough things to finish the thing, and I can go back and return to the quartermaster to turn in that bounty. So you go back to the quartermaster, you can turn it in, it gives you rewards, which is usually just loot. And then after I complete 4 of the bounties, I get a special chest, and that special chest is what can drop the gems. It's what drops the charms. And you can only do 12 of these bounties per day. Another thing that you sort of unlock along the way to the end game is what's called the Bestiary. That unlocks as part of the campaign, and it kind of tells you what to do. But basically, every single time you kill things, they can drop this like little yellow globe that looks like kind of a progress orb from Diablo 3. And eventually, after you get 10 of those, you can go to the Bestiary altar, the Heraldic altar, and sort of turn them in. And that takes you into this special Bestiary book. And normally, I already had that guy unlocked. I'm not really quite sure how that system works entirely yet. But usually I'll get a Bestiary level, and with the Bestiary level comes life and damage. So it's kind of like a secondary form of Paragon that you can farm in this game. But with the caveat of that being, it's only you can only do the Bestiary 3 times a day and get the XP towards your Bestiary. The other thing that's kind of interesting, the Bestiary always drops is these horns of Ariat, which is a consumable, which is, I guess, sort of interesting. So I assume, in the live version of the game, there'll probably be multiple of these consumables. But it gives you a Horn of Ariat that increases all damage you deal by 10% for 20 minutes, and it's for you and your team, which is kind of nice for, pushing the leaderboards and stuff like that. Or maybe if you're doing really challenging endgame content, you want to activate your consumables first. Those consumables will expire if you die, so that's sort of interesting. What's also interesting, in every single one of these zones, right? So if you look at the map, each of these zones we currently have access to, which is only Library, Shasar Sea, Bilefen, Ashwold Cemetery, Darkwood, Wortham, and Westmarch are actually cities, so they're not actual proper zones. But in each of these places, there's a random activity, like an event that happens for that zone that's specific to that zone. And so you can see this one, a haunted carriage will pop up basically in 2 minutes here. And all that is basically it's like a escort mission. So you're going to follow this carriage and you're going to kill the things that try to attack the carriage. And at the end, you'll be rewarded with a fat chest that actually gives like 5 to 6 dust, which is really, really strong. And that happens once every 30 minutes in this zone. If you go to the Darkwood, for example, the event will be totally different. Basically, as you kill mobs, you'll increase your corruption bar here in the left. And once that gets to 100%, you go to this tree on the map. And when you touch the tree, it'll spawn a clone of yourself that you have to fight. And fighting and defeating your clone, again, gives you a lot of rewards, Bilefen is actually maybe the most interesting one because once every 3 hours in Bilefen, what happens is a PvP event. And actually starts in 30 seconds here. I don't think I'm going to make it. I just snuck in right as this is going to start. And so this is a PvP event. So if there's other players in this zone right now, it's basically a BR, what you think of from other games. So if I kill the other players in this zone, I get a chest with a guaranteed legendary. Oh, you can see some bullets flying around. So it looks like there are other people here. Oh, it's a group. So that kind of sucks. You can actually group in this game. Makes it a little bit less interesting, but anyways, if you can survive the event and your team wins, you get access to a treasure chest that has a guaranteed legendary. So that's, of all the events, arguably the most interesting because it's PvP and in a mobile game, which is not something we really expected to happen. So that happens once every 3 hours in the Bilefen. That's kind of the unique event. The Bilefen and the Shasar Sea, you'll be able to find these, mysterious scrolls every once in a while from killing enemies. And that basically takes you, it's like a treasure map. It takes you to a kind of a random location with an X, and then you basically search that location for the prize, which you can turn in for, again, really good rewards. And then finally, the Library is Zoltan Cool, arguably one of the best in the alpha right now, is basically you collect these pages randomly throughout the zone. You'll see like little glowy clickables that you want to pick up on the ground. See if I can find one here for the sake of the video. Looks like we have one up here on the left. You can see right there, we've got a monster essence. That's what I was talking about earlier. You get 10 of those. You can turn them into the Bestiary. But yeah, every once in a while you'll see these on the ground. Collect the lost page. I get 10 of these, or 5 of these bad boys, and I can open basically a map to this like special portal room. And what's kind of interesting here is it's also random. So sometimes when you come in here, it's like a cursed chest event, which is super rewarding. Sometimes when you come in here, it's like crap and there's nothing. And sometimes you'll get this guy, which is actually maybe the best, which is basically like a shadow of Zoltan Cool. You have to defeat his enemies within a certain time period. And after that's all over, he'll drop you a treasure chest. And you can see here, super rewarding. You get, 6 dust, which is actually nutty. So yeah, kind of taking a cue, if you will, from Path of Exile a little bit. Like basically you're grinding content to, get mats and to get XP. And then organically through that, maybe you'll find some pages and eventually that'll unlock another activity to do while you're just doing another activity. So kind of a casual takeaway from Path of Exile, sure. But, to organically get things to do other content while you're doing the content that you want to do, it feels pretty good actually. Another thing that happens here as you upgrade your items is at level 6, I think 11 and then 16, your items will unlock basically a bonus attribute. So you can see here on my weapon at level 6, I was able to unlock another stat. So like this weapon rolled 10 vitality, this one rolled 13 strength. My shoulders rolled 10 strength, 16 willpower, 10 willpower, blah, blah, blah. You can see it. You get it. And what that unlocks is this ability to reforge, right? So when we showed you guys earlier that reforge stone that we bought from the vendor, that's one of the ways you can sort of re-roll these stats. For example, this one's not the best thing I've ever seen, so I could go select the stat that I want to reroll, pick a Reforge stone, and it'll basically randomly pick another stat to replace it with. In this case, I got 8 vitality, which is not as good, so I will keep the original and does not automatically replace. But also what you can do here is sort of pick a specific family, right? So these stones have a specific family that they can possibly roll into, and these are available via that same shop that we talked about before, and we'll show you guys in a second. But say I really wanted something from the Jolt family, I could reforge using a Jolt stone, which is vastly more expensive. And this one says beneficial effect duration increased by 2%. Again, that still really sucks, so I'm going to keep the original. But if you really wanted to focus farm a specific stat from a specific family, and we don't know exactly what those specific stats are, we don't have a list of those yet, but that's a way you can focus and do that. Now, as you can see here in the Reforge section, what happens is at level 11 and 16, you'll unlock, more attributes. Now, if these attributes are part of the same family, which you can see on the item, like this one, for example, is that little lightning bolt to it. So my weapon and my shoulders are part of that same family, that little charge stone, the Jolt family. If I get the 3 of the same on one item, I get a special affix associated with that family. So if you look at this Reforged Stone vendor, this is the guy we were talking about before. This is that same currency. Right now, the only way to get this purple currency is to basically log in every day, and you get an email that says, like, thanks for playing the alpha, here's 1,000. But you can see here, again, if you get 3 from the same family, they each of the families do something unique. So the Tremor family will give your primary attacks a 1% chance to inflict, blank damage, basically a proc that will also stun. The Wildfire family will give you a 1% chance to summon a Hydra. The Jolt family will give you a % to mobilize. Vengeance will give you primary attack damage. Barrier will give you a absorption shield. All these are basically 1% chance procs. I'm sure there's a way to scale that 1%. I have actually no idea. This one says when you kill an enemy, they explode, damaging nearby enemies. So again, if you get 3 of the same family on a weapon, it unlocks a special thing specific to that weapon, which is, I guess, kind of an interesting system. You could definitely see, getting something exactly the way you want it would take quite a bit of time, quite a bit of currency. Getting an item level to 20 would also obviously take a ton of time, because I'm only, highest level item levels rank 8, and again, 60 plus hours. And who knows, right? Like, there could be some new currency we don't even see yet at like rank 16, for example, that can only come from like a special endgame activity. We have no idea how that's going to work, but it takes a ton of time in the alpha currently to level up an item. On top of all that we briefly mentioned before, from bounties, every day you get a chance to get some charms. Charms are another special type of item that you can get on your character, which basically gives you, +1 skills. So this one I'm wearing right now gives me +1 to Wrath of the Berserker. And unfortunately, as I've been upgrading this thing, I got +1 for other classes. So right now I have +1 to Knockback Shot and +1 to Meteor, which benefits me none whatsoever. But as you break down other charms, you get enough juice to increase the level of your current charms. And as you increase them, they get that another random skill. So it's complete RNG. I could get crazy lucky and get, all 5 +1 barbarian rank skills. That would be the dream. But once these charms are max level of level 5, so they'll have 5 stats on them, you can extract basically a charm into a skill rune. Let me show you guys what that looks like, which you can then use to basically upgrade another level 5 skill stone, if that makes any sense. So this one has Furious Charge on it. If I wanted, if I have my current charm to level 5, I could imbue this charm to have replace one of the current sockets on it with that Furious Charge that I wanted. I don't know that you get to pick it. I don't know that anyone's able to do this system to its full extent right now, because charms, again, you can only get 1 charm per day. This is definitely the rarest thing in the game right now, and it only comes from bounties, so we don't really get to see crazy in depth how the system works. But again, it seems like eventually we just be working on finding a charm that has a stat like this one, Wrath of the Berserker. I like Wrath of the Berserker on my build. I don't like it as a skill, but I will eventually break this down, pull off Wrath of the Berserker, and then maybe find a charm that has another base stat that I really like and maybe add Wrath of Berserker in place of something that I don't want. And so that would take also a ton of time because, again, I'm at 60 plus here. I have one level 5 gem or charm that we've already broken down just to see how it works. And then I'm only up to level 3 on the next one. So that would take a ton of time to get a charm that has 5 stats on it that you would actually want. And I think that that's probably the way they intended it on purpose. There's also basically Kadala in this game for gold. So you can see here at this vendor, there's a daily limit on each. So right now I have 278k gold. Let's go ahead and just roll some jewelry. So just like you would in Diablo 3, you just spam on the slot that you want. Sometimes, as you can see just happened, the price went up. I guess because, I don't know, maybe everyone's rolling jewelry, or maybe it's per my character, but at 15 the price increase goes way up, so I'm going to start buying secondary armor instead. I've not seen a single legendary drop this way. Just full disclosure, I've never gotten anything good from Kadala, or what's his name, Yakin, but that is basically what you want to dump your additional gold on. And I actually got an insane upgrade here. It's a necklace. It's got 3 sockets and strength vitality, so that's actually amazing. What we'll do here actually is to show you guys. So you're like, oh, Fluff, well, why would I want to waste all my juice on one item? What if it's just going to get upgraded? This is a perfect example to show you what happens. So I like this new necklace better. I'm going to choose to equip it. And when I equip it, it's going to ask if I want to transfer all the current rank that I have on my current necklace to the new necklace. And I'm going to say, yes, of course. So, you know, essentially what that does is it doesn't put the fear of upgrading items into you. Basically, you just want to be upgrading items as fast as you possibly can. There's no penalty for basically upgrading items. Now, it seems like if I were to start upgrading like 2 different necklaces, which is pretty hard to do, you have to like go out of your way in menus to upgrade 2 different items in the same slot. That can kind of bite you in the butt. But again, I wanted to kind of briefly mention the vendors. There's the honor guy we already talked about. You get honor from the challenge rift leaderboard. You get honor from just completing challenge rifts in general. You get honor from these exploration activities. So like if you find a special, you know, if you killed the skeletal king enough times, you'll unlock 40 honor. These are finite though, so each zone has a special amount of exploration activities, and if you complete them, you get a set amount of honor right then and there. Like I said before, also there's this fading ember merchant. That fading ember is that currency you get just from running elder rifts. You don't get a ton. I only have 680. I've done actually not that many elder rifts because, like I said, they're not super rewarding. But this is where you can buy the specific runes you need to craft specific legendary gems. And of course, there's a crest merchant where you can spend that purple juice on to buy legendary crests. You can also seem to buy, you know, 1 legendary crest per day based on the amount of platinum you have. And the only way to get platinum I've seen is from 1, from running bounties, and 2, certain types of events will give you platinum, like the battle pass, for example, can sometimes earn you platinum. Right, and so then, you know, heading into, there is the battle pass. That is a thing. It's exactly how you would expect it to kind of function. There's the sort of, you know, paid tier at the bottom, which we don't have access to. None of the shop items are active on the alpha right now, so it's really hard to kind of give you my full review of how pay to win those will be, but we'll talk about this in just a second. As you can see here, you know, every single time I basically unlock a tier, if I had this paid tier at the bottom, I would basically be getting additional awards, and these rewards can be quite good, right? You get parts, you can get honor, and you get gems, legendary crests. Pretty strong stuff here, unlockable on that paid bottom tier. Also on the battle pass, you'll see like a quest tabs here at the bottom. These quests refresh every day, and they do stack. So, you know, if you're not able to log in every day, you'll be able to get, you know, 4 quests the next day. And these will basically give you battle pass juice, activity juice, for doing whatever it says. So if I get a Paragon level, I unlock 40 battle pass currency. That's that gold circle. I also get battle pass currency by doing these events in the activities tab of the codex. So say if I ran Forgotten Tower, which is a dungeon, I would just get 20 activity pass juice, or battle pass juice, however you want to call that, just for doing it. There's always a daily thing that gives you more gold juice than everything else. So today that is bounties. I'll get double currency reward for doing bounties. However, I will say that is capped, and I did hit the cap, I think, about 40 hours of playtime per week, you will hit the maximum amount of battle pass currency you can unlock. Do keep in mind there is a couple systems in place in the alpha that will kind of time gate you. And then sort of the last thing I wanted to mention is they have an auction house in the game, and this is where you can sell any ranked gem. I assume you can just only sell these for gold. There's nothing available, so I can't actually see what these cost. But you can sell legendary gems, skill stones, which again are those things you get from breaking down a level 5 charm. You can buy specific runes, which we showed you guys, and of course any one of gems. So to me, this system kind of seems like, well, if you're really kind of geared up, you could start selling all the things you have, like gems. Maybe you don't need a specific tier, or you're maxed on your gem levels. You could start selling gems to try to get gold or whatever currency is in use. But it is interesting to see there's an auction house on the demo or on the alpha currently. How viable this is or how often people use it, I have no idea. Some interesting things from the AMA. I kind of pulled out, to me, what I felt were the most interesting subjects. One is, we do know they confirmed there will be no hardcore mode in Diablo. So that would be the first, I think, Diablo, right, that doesn't have any hardcore mode at all. Their rationale I'll get into maybe just a second here. They also said no transmogs. So I will not be able to, go into my character, for example, and change the way he looks per item slot. But they did say there will be, cash shop full set transmogs available, right? And also unlockable through the battle pass. They said that on some of these tiers, they might have full set transmogs. So if you want to look a certain way, it seems like the only way you can do that is to actually pay real life cash, which I don't care about cosmetics being pay to win because they're cosmetics. Now, also one of the questions that I asked in the AMA was about sort of the pay to win aspect of the game. Now, I want to explain this to you guys so that you fully understand and you can jump to your own conclusions. But I'm going to give you my opinion of what this game's cash shop is currently looking at. So if you go to your menu and you go to the shop, you can see right now in the shop, and again, this could change in the future. You can see I can buy legendary crests from the cash shop with the eternal orbs, right? Which is this purple circle currency. I assume that this is the currency that you'll be able to purchase infinitely, basically. And so if I can buy legendary crests, a lot of you guys probably already see what's going to happen here is I can go and I can run a fully juiced Elder Rift that will drop 3 legendary gems at the end. And again, the only way to level your legendary gems is to get duplicates of the legendary gems you already have. And then you basically absorb those legendary gems to make your current legendary gems more powerful. And again, not only are the legendary gems good on their own by leveling them, right? So if every single time you level them, they get more powerful, their effect. But as I mentioned before, it also increases the value of the item that you put them inside of. So you can see again here, Trickshot Gem, 45% of the socket's items, gain 45% of the socketed items base attribute. So this goes, the damage goes way up just from having that legendary socket in it. So you guys can see if I are able to buy legendary crests and I get 3 legendary gems every single time I run an Elder Rift, which is really fast and really easy. The rate at which I'm going to be able to level my legendary gems is going to be insane. It's going to go really fast. It's going to make my character really, really powerful, really, really quick. And if I can, basically pay for that power, something like this, right? The Challenge Rift leaderboard, which is the best thing you can do in the game right now, in my opinion. It's the most competitive, fun reason to continue playing. This leaderboard essentially becomes completely pay to win because the top players will be the guys with insane legendary gem levels. And what makes that potentially even worse than what I've already described is in the AMA, Wyatt Chang hinted at maybe an insane in-game progression system where max level legendary gems could be absorbed into maybe another item. So it sounds like not only will legendary gems be super powerful and boost item stats, but they'll also be used in another form of end-game item progression. So obviously super alarming. There's no way to candy coat this to you guys. Pay for power is going to be very real in Diablo Immortal. I almost kind of feel bad right now because, you know, I'm experiencing the game on the alpha. The cash shop is currently closed. So I'm experiencing Diablo Immortal kind of as the most true form of competition we might ever experience in Diablo Immortal's history. And so one of the questions I asked in the AMA was, would they ever consider separating, you know, pay-to-play users from people that don't want that at all, right? So like, imagine you can pay $24.99 up front to play Diablo Immortal, but it ensures that you play on a server that will never ever have pay-to-win advantages on it. And Blizzard kind of very quickly shot that down. They don't want it. They said they don't want to split up the community. Kind of their same rationale for the hardcore versus softcore. They don't want to split up the community at all. So there you have it, right? That's the current cash shop. As for my overall thoughts about the game, I do want to say, again, I had a lot of fun maintaining rank 1 on the Challenge Rift leaderboard. That really inspired me to sort of continue playing and play really, really tough, play really hard, play a lot of hours. In the AMA, they did hint at the numerous other endgame systems that they'll be adding at launch, maybe even stuff like raids that you can do in a large group. And they really emphasized that the Challenge Rift, right, this event, will not be the end-all, be-all form of endgame in Diablo Immortal. So if you're someone that only cares about, you know, PvE, this whole pay for power system might obviously not impact you as much as someone who just wants to basically compete against other players on, say, something like a leaderboard. So, you know, my official stance on the subject is obviously, you know, Diablo Immortal is going to be massively pay to win if the cash shop goes forward as it is. Whether or not that impacts you is just strictly dependent on the type of player you are. If you are someone like me, who, you know, the only reason I still kind of play Diablo 3 at this point is for the leaderboard. I don't get a ton of enjoyment out of, you know, farming the end game and stuff like that anymore. It's literally just upgrade myself so that I can beat other players on the leaderboard. Players like that, I think, will be extremely and completely disappointed by Diablo Immortal. However, players that just want to jump into a Diablo game and experience, you know, a Diablo game on their mobile device, experience another form of Diablo story, experience just PvE. They want to jump in and, you know, play a necromancer, put a necromancer build together on their phone and go blast some bad guys. I think that this game's great. Actually, I actually genuinely had fun playing this game. I think the game is actually quite good, and I will probably play this at launch. Quick caveat being that, you know, one is they're gonna have a necromancer, so I'm probably gonna play that. I will probably play through the story, you know, just to see what's going on there. I'll probably get all the legendaries you can get on a necro, and I'll like make a build. But if, you know, this pay to win sort of aspect stays, I don't see myself playing a ton of this game. But again, I don't really think that this game was designed for us hardcore, you know, PC audience at all, right? I think this game has been designed to sort of, you know, advertise Diablo to the masses, right? Like the amount of people this game potentially reach, because like I said, it is and I think it is good for a mobile game. I think the amount of people it could reach, you know, we're talking about tens of millions of players here that have never even heard about Diablo. So I think overall it's probably good for Diablo. It's just not the game us PC players really wanted it to be. But, you know, millions of players could be attracted to Diablo 4, the next iteration, the true iteration of Diablo, because they really enjoyed Diablo Immortal. Mobile games are kind of, you know, inherently, I wouldn't say like evil, maybe not be the right word, but they're so heavily monetized. Obviously, Blizzard's a business, and the mobile game market is very pay to win because, you know, the cost of acquiring a user is quite high because it's so expensive to advertise, you know, on the mobile market. But two, you know, Google and Apple take 30% of everything. So the whole system is kind of set up in a way that, I mean, if you're not fitting the mold, you don't really stand much of a chance. I do think, you know, as a PC gamer, my immediate thought is like, well, you know, if Diablo Immortal's, it's a pretty good game to be on a mobile device. Diablo Immortal's a better isometric ARPG than a lot of isometric ARPGs I've played that were made for the PC. To me, this game, you know, it beats Torchlight 3. Torchlight 3 feels like more of a mobile game than this game does, and Torchlight 3 is on PC. You know, I've played games like Warhammer Chaos Bane. I've played games like Pagan Online. Those games were awful compared to this game. This game does not compare to Diablo 3, The Path of Exile, The Grim Dawn, The Lost Ark, to any of those games to me, but it is actually pretty good for an isometric ARPG. Now, is it because I'm really thirsty for more isometric ARPGs? Is that why I played this game so much? That is possible. We don't have a lot of isometric ARPGs to choose from out there. So anytime something new comes along, it's exciting, it feels really fresh, and I'm excited to grind it because I am such a huge fan of this isometric ARPG genre. But again, you know, there were a lot of times I was having a good time. I was actively thinking about logging in the next day, you know, what I'm going to grind, what I'm going to be able to upgrade. I think the itemization is interesting enough for a mobile game. Obviously, if this was the true next iteration of Diablo, I would be underwhelmed by the itemization. But again, I think that it kind of works in this mobile version. Even if I choose not to play this game because, you know, I really like the spirit of competition and that might be ruined for me, at the end of the day, this game is going to be free, right? They've said numerous times the game at its core is going to be free to play. Every class they add in the future, every, you know, Paragon tree, every whatever, every legendary they add to the game, nothing's going to be locked behind paying. So there's no reason not to try it out. If you like Diablo, if you like isometric RPGs, by all means, when this game comes out, you should try it because, I mean, what is there to lose? It's free. And then you can make that decision whether or not you'd actually want to dump a ton of time into it. That is entirely up to you. But who knows? Again, they said they're going to add way more activities to do. Maybe, you know, the end game stuff that you grind is actually super duper fun and the pay to win aspect doesn't really affect you that much. But enough, right? I've been talking here for hours and hours. I want to know what you guys think, right? So of all the thoughts and opinions and the facts that we presented to you guys in this video, what do you guys think? Is there any of you that wouldn't try this just based on the fact that it will have pay to win aspects? Is there a lot of you guys that don't care? What do you guys think of all the systems? What did you guys think of the itemization? What do you guys think of all the things? Let me know in the comment section below. I'm genuinely curious what you guys feel. I will continue to give you guys updates on this game as we get them, assuming that I still have access to the alpha. I am personally very interested in the Necromancer class and the actual new endgame activities they're going to introduce and further iterations of the alpha/beta. And of course, if there's anything super interesting, we'll let you guys know with future videos. But that's pretty much going to do it for this video. I know it's a lot to digest, but again, let me know what you guys think. As always, guys, like, subscribe, come over to Twitch, ask your questions. We love you guys. Peace out.